In today's lecture, we are going to develop ball and bar game in GameLab on code.org. For making the game, the first thing that we need to do is we need to import the required sprites in the animation workspace. I'm going to hit this new animation tab and search for the required sprites in this animation library of GameLab. So the first thing that I require is a ball kind of thing. So I'm going to make use of this sports section. So here, as you can see, there are couple of balls which we guys can make use of for making that ball and ladder game. So for now, I am adding this one to the animation workspace. So it's a soccer ball which I have added to this animation workspace. I'm going to rename this sprite to ball. Okay, so I'm done with adding this ball sprite to this animation workspace. Now the second thing that we require is the sprite of a bar. So I am going to make use of this draw your own option, and I'm going to draw that sprite on my own using these tools over here available in this animation workspace of GameLab. So for now, I'm going to make use of this rectangle tool and draw a beautiful rectangle over here. Okay, and now let's make use of this paint bucket tool and fill this empty space. This is now looking like a bar, right? Let's now make use of this rectangle selection tool and select this whole rectangle over here. Now I'm going to crop this sprite which I have selected using the selection tool with the help of this crop the sprite tool. Okay, so I am done with adding both the required sprites in this animation workspace of GameLab. Now let's come on this coding window and start defining the code over here in the workspace. Firstly, we need to define the code which can help us accessing the two sprites on this playground. So for doing that, I'm going to come on this sprite section and let's make use of this variable sprite block first. So this is going to create for us the sprite at this point 200 by 200. Alright, and then in order to set the animation for this variable over here, we can make use of this set animation block. I'm going to put it over here. Let's convert it back into block based coding. So I'm going to first set the animation of this ball sprite. Let's replace this variable's name with ball. Okay, now what is going to happen, this set animation is going to set this ball's animation for this variable ball, and this create sprite is going to draw the ball at this point 200 by 200. Okay, on this playground. Now in order to see that ball on this playground, again we need to come on this world area and we need to make use of this function draw and this draw sprites block, which is going to draw for us all the sprites we have defined above this draw function. So at present we have defined only one sprite which is of a ball. Let's now run this game and see whether we'll be able to see the ball getting reflected on this playground area or not. So we are able to see the ball over here. Size of this ball needs to be reduced, right? So for doing that, we can come on this sprite section of the toolbox and let's come down and select this sprite.scale block and put it just below this ball.set animation block. Okay, so now I'm going to replace this sprite with ball and let's pass a value for this ball.scale. I'm going to pass 0.5 for now. Let's run this game and see whether we'll be able to get the required output or not. So this, the size of the ball has got reduced, but still it is very big. Let's reduce it to 0.2. I think this is perfectly fine, right? When the game will begin, initially, the user will be able to see the ball getting reflected at this point. If suppose you want to change the position of this ball and would like to get it reflected somewhere over here. So what we can do, we can change the value of this y coordinate from 400 to somewhat near about 60. So that's how you can change the position of this ball. Let's now reset this game. Now let's define the code for accessing the bar on this playground. So for doing that, I'm going to copy all these 3 lines of code first, and I am going to place it right above this function draw like this. Let's replace the name of the variable with bar. So now I'm going to make use of this variable for bringing this animation underscore 1 over here on this playground. Let's run this game and see what is going to happen. So as you can see, the bar is also getting reflected over here on this playground, and the ball is also visible to us. But the bar is very small. We need to increase the size of this bar, right? Let's change it to 1.1. Yeah, I think this is perfectly fine. So right now we are able to see both the sprites on the playground. Bar is right on the top of this ball. I would like to see this bar getting reflected somewhere over here. So I need to again change the value of y from 60 to 370. Now it is getting reflected over here. Let's increase it a bit more. So I'm increasing it to 380. Okay, now it is perfectly fine. I'm done with defining the code required for bringing these 2 sprites on this playground. Let's reset this game. Now the next thing that we need to do is I would like to see this ball moving downwards as soon as the player begins the game. How can we do that? If you want to see such kind of thing, the best way is to impart some velocity to this object so that it can move automatically itself. So because I want this ball to move in downward direction as soon as the player begins the game. So for that, what I'm going to do, I'm going to make use of this sprite.velocity y component. Why? Because it is going to help me impart a velocity to this ball along the y-axis, with the help of which the ball will be able to move along y-axis. So let's select this block and I'm going to put it right below this ball.scale, and let's replace this sprite with ball like this. Now let's bring the cursor over here on this playground area. Coordinates of this point are 204, 62, where my cursor is at present on this playground area. Now if I will start moving it downwards, what is happening? The value of y is constantly increasing, right? But the value of x is not increasing. So it means that we need to assign a positive value to this ball.velocity y component if we want to see this moving downwards. Similarly, if you want to see this ball moving upwards, you can assign a negative value to this velocity y component. Let's reset this game and assign a positive value to this velocity y component. So I am assigning 3 for now. Okay, so we are able to see this ball moving downwards. We are able to see these ghost images of the ball getting reflected over here on this playground. So for eliminating these ghost images, the best way is to define a white background a white background for this playground. So we need to come on this drawing section and I'm going to make use of this background color property. Let's define it inside this function draw just before this draw sprites block. So as you can see, the ball is going downwards and we are successful in eliminating those ghost images which were appearing on this playground earlier, right? Now the next thing that I would like to do is I would like to define the code for controlling the movement of this bar. If I will press the left direction key, I would like to see this bar moving in the left direction, and as soon as I release the key, it should stop. Similarly, if I'll press the right direction key, I would like to see this bar going in right direction, and as soon as I release the key, it should stop moving. So for doing this, let's come on this control section, and from here I am going to pick this if block and put it over here just below this draw sprites. Now let's come on this world area and make use of this key down block. So on pressing the left direction key, I would like to see this bar moving in left direction. So as you can see, when I'm moving this cursor towards left side, what is happening? Only the value of x is changing. Nothing is happening to the value of y. Why it is so? It is because the movement is taking place along the x-axis. So that's the reason the value of y is not getting affected. Value of x is decreasing as I'm moving this cursor towards left side. So keeping this as base, I am going to define a code. Bar.x should be equal to bar.x minus 5. Why I am subtracting 5 from this bar.x? Just because when I'm moving this cursor towards left side, the value of x is decreasing. That is the reason why I have placed this minus sign over here. Fine. Now let's see. Let's check out whether this code is going to give us the right output or not. So it is giving us right output. Let's copy this whole code and put it right below this if loop. Now I'm going to define the code which is going to help us in moving the bar in the right direction. So the only thing that we need to do is we need to replace this left with right, and this minus we need to replace it with plus. Let's see whether we are going to get the desired output or not. So now we are able to move this bar in both the direction, right? So it is working perfectly fine. Now let's do one thing. Let's increase this velocity of ball because it is coming very slowly. So I would like to see it coming down somewhat fast. I'm making it 8 for now. So this is how the ball is going to come now from the top as soon as the player will start the game. As soon as the ball touches this bar, I would like to see it moving in the opposite direction. It should start going in this direction, upwards. Let's make use of this control statement, this if control statement. Let's come on this sprite section and make use of that is touching block. So I'm going to put it inside this if loop like this. Okay, and let's replace this sprite with bar. So when the bar will come in contact with the ball, what should happen? The ball should start moving in the opposite direction. So for doing that, we can make use of this sprite.velocity y component. And here we need to replace this sprite with ball because we would like to see it moving in the opposite direction. So that is the reason we need to pass a negative value now for this velocity y component. Let's run this game and see whether we are going to get the required output or not. So as you can see, I am able to get the desired output. But it is going in a straight line. I want to see it going in randomly in any direction. So for achieving this thing, what we can do, we can assign a random value velocity x component to the ball. Let's do that. So I'm going to make use of this sprite dot velocity x component, and I'm going to put it over here inside this if loop. Let's replace this sprite with ball like this. Now, if you want to assign a random value to this velocity x component, you can come on this maths section of this toolbox. Here you'll find a beautiful block named random number, which you can make use of for assigning a random value to this velocity x component. Let's assign a random number to this velocity x component somewhere near -1 and 1. Let's run this game and see what is going to happen now. So as you can see, the ball is now going like this, right, diagonally. So it is happening just because of this velocity x component we have defined over here. So now every time you run the game and when the ball will hit this bar, the ball can go in any direction. It can go here also, it can go here also. This magical thing we generally get to see when we make use of this velocity x component with this velocity y component. This is making the ball moving in upward direction, and this one is controlling the movement of the ball along x-axis. So now, as you can see, when the ball is hitting this bar, it is going upwards, and after some time it is leaving the playground completely. Okay, I don't want that to happen. So how can I prevent that from happening? For doing that, we can come on this watchers section. We can keep an eye over this ball.x and ball.y component, ball.x and ball.y. Let's see what is the value of this ball.x and ball.y when the ball reaches somewhere over here after hitting the bar. When the ball reaches at this position, it is 240 for this ball.x, and for this ball.y it is around 170, 180. Right, now what I'm going to do, I'm going to define a code with which I can bring this ball back into this playground. So for doing the same, I am going to make use of this if loop again. Let's define a condition inside this if loop. So first of all, I'm going to bring my mouse over here in this playground, and I'm going to check the value of y at this height. So it is around 37, 36. Alright, now on the basis of this, I am going to define a condition over here. So if the ball.y becomes smaller than 39, let's say 39. So I would like to see the ball coming downwards. For doing the same, we can make use of this ball.velocity y component. And because we want to see it coming down, so that is the reason a positive value has to be assigned to this velocity y component. Let's run this game and see what is going to happen. So we are able to achieve the required output, right? Now the way we have defined the edge for this side of the playground, in the same way I am going to define the edges using the if loop for these two sides of the playground too. So for doing that, let's reset this game first, and I'm going to copy this if loop and paste it over here. Fine, so I'm going to define the edge for this side of the playground first. Now here the maximum value of x is 400. So I'm going to put a check on the x component of the ball. Okay, remember this thing. If you are defining the edge for this left and right side of the playground, you need to put a check on this ball.x component. Define edges for this top and bottom part of the playground, you need to put a check on this ball.y component. Ball.x, if it will become greater than, let's say, 340, so the ball.velocity y should be equal to 5. That is perfectly fine. And if I want to see it moving diagonally like this, for doing this I can make use of this velocity X component. I want to see it moving in the left side. I need to pass a negative value over here for this velocity X component. Let's now run this game and check out what are we going to get as an output. Okay, so we are getting the required output. We successfully defined the edge for this side of the playground. Let's now define the edge for this side, the left side of the playground. So for doing the same, I am going to make use of this code and paste it over here. Now instead of using this greater than sign, I'm going to make use of this smaller than sign. And if the value of ball.x becomes smaller than 34, then ball.velocity y should be equal to 5 and ball.velocity x should be equal to 4. Let's run this game and check out what is going to happen. So we are able to get the desired output. That's how you can make this beautiful ball and ladder game. That's it for this lecture. Thank you very much. God bless you and namaste. Have a great day. Bye bye.